she got released today. They
Thank you, Lord.
Watkins are upset because they did send a prisoner over there to get her out.
Whatever.
But the response is, the 5,000 Taliban that they released right in Afghanistan, now one of them's a president of fucking Afghanistan now. Trump released from prison.
Okay, yeah, a little late. Yeah, right. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start the meeting. This is the December 8th, 2022 meeting of the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Dale Vaughn. I am the chair of the commission. I would like to remind the commission members to turn on their microphones and ask everyone present to please silence their phones and other electronics during the meeting. We will go ahead and have members introduce themselves, starting with the council liaison.
Mike Lester, Council Liaison.
Randy Hazelton, is this thing on? Yeah, I guess it is. Randy Hazelton, from Ward 1, new resident here, Afghanistan, Iraq veteran, Missouri Guard member. Came from Neosho, done planning and zone twice before for Arnold and Neosho, and decided I'd keep on doing what I was doing, but here.
Thank you for coming.
Emily Fretwell.
Jacob Robinette.
Penny Quigg.
Greg Butler.
Shannon Hawk.
Bunny Tricky Cotton.
Hank Vogt.
Courtney Bliss, City Planner.
Eric Barron, Planning Manager.
Shane Wade, Public Works.
Dustin Birch, Assistant City Attorney.
Lisa Dimmer.
The city code authorizes 9 regular members and 3 alternates. Alternates are designated to vote upon the absence or disqualification of regular members. A quorum of 5 members or alternates is necessary to conduct business. I declare that a quorum is present. The following regular members are present this evening: Trika Young. What? I'm sorry, absent. Did I say present?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, absent. Trika Young. Are there any members who are disqualified from voting on any agenda item? No, seeing none. Everyone is present, and we will start with case. Oops, sorry. Oh, excuse me. The voting members are as follows, and that is everyone that is present. Do I still say all the? Okay, I didn't think so. Is someone in attendance to present the case 900 block of Emily Lane? Thank you. Are there any requests for a continuance? Are there any requests to reorder the agenda? Nope. Courtney, will you please read the format of the hearing and order of testimony?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to briefly describe the procedures of the commission. The proceedings of the meeting are being recorded, so please step to the microphone when you speak and give your name and address for the record. The standard order of each case is as follows. After introduction of the request by city staff, the applicant or the consultant will provide information on the request. The opening presentation by the applicant shall be limited to 10 minutes unless additional time is granted by the commission. The applicant shall have an additional 3 minutes for closing testimony if requested. We will then ask to hear from supporters of the request. We will then ask to hear from opponents of the request. We will then ask to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the request. Testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each unless additional time is granted by the commission. City staff will then give the recommendations on the request. In order to reduce the time necessary to hear an application, references to printed materials, including staff reports and applicable findings, shall not be read into the record unless directed by the commission. The commission will then close testimony from the floor. The commission will then discuss the proposal, then publicly make its determination with reasons. The form motion shall be positive, that is, that the motion shall be made to accept the request as presented, or with modifications, stipulations, or conditions. A final vote will be taken with ayes in favor, nays opposed. The chair shall announce the results of the vote, specifying the number of votes cast in favor and the number of votes cast against. The following documents are entered as exhibits for all items under consideration at this meeting: the City Code of the City of Jefferson as amended, the Comprehensive Plan and Land Use Map, copies of applications under consideration, a list of property owners to whom notices were sent, the affidavit of publication of the public notice to the newspaper, copies of drawings, plans, and/or renderings under consideration, letters and memoranda from staff, staff reports, minutes of proceedings, correspondence or other materials submitted by the public or the applicant, rules of procedure for the Jefferson City Planning and Zoning Commission. These items are public record and available for inspection through the Department of Planning and Protective Services or through the Office of the City Clerk. Please be advised that any items that are presented, distributed, or otherwise received pertaining to the cases under consideration become the property of the commission. This includes any photographs, drawings, petitions, and letters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Courtney. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as printed?
Move to adopt the agenda as printed.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the regular minutes of November 10th, 2022?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Have we received any communications?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to 900 block of Emily Lane. Courtney, could you please present the case?
This is a request for a preliminary and a final plat submitted for the 900 block of Emily Lane, which is shown there on the screen by a thick blue outline. It is zoned RA1, high density residential, with surrounding zoning also being, well, to the north is RS2, low density residential, and then along Emily Lane is also that RA1. And then to the south there is a little single family residential, as well as a little further south is RA-2, high density residential. And this area was recently came before you all as a part of an annexation and zoning plan. And so what they're doing now, well, first, here is a site aerial. Again, the property is outlined in blue. And what they want to do on that site now is they have submitted a preliminary and final plat to divide the land into 3 separate lots. Here is a preliminary plat of the project, or the plat, sorry. Yes, it's a preliminary plat, and what it consists of, again, is 3 lots with, the name of the plat would be Emily Lane Subdivision Section 3, and 2 of the lots are going to be roughly about the same size, with lots 22 and 23 being within 0.6 acres of each other. And then lot 24 to the north is going to be 1.71 acres. A part of the proposal would be a cul-de-sac bulb off the end of the dead end that currently exists off of Emily Lane, and they would also include a private drive extending north and south off of that cul-de-sac bulb. There are notable things in there, such as part of the project would be a 4-foot sidewalk to be located on the north side of the cul-de-sac. And they have also outlined a couple of fire hydrants. They've got some utilities listed there, like water lines, sanitary sewer, and general utility easements. And then this is the final plat. Now, before you all is, again, a preliminary and final. And according to Article 7 of the Zoning Code, preliminary plats go for you all for an approval, but the final plat, which is up there, would be something you all review, make a recommendation, then pass that recommendation on to the City Council. So that is the general information of that request. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Courtney. Do any commissioners have any questions for Courtney?
Mr. Chair, I'll just add a
Yep.
little there. The preliminary plat is an important step by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I like to reference that it's the power that the city has to determine road layout and road network. And so the key decision that's before you tonight is it appropriate to end Emily Lane with a cul-de-sac bulb at this location? Okay. The other option being to extend it through. Okay. I think the way it's laid out and lean on the consultant and representative to kind of lay out some of their thinking on this particular proposal. But I think some of our discussion at the last meeting at the time of annexation kind of lended itself toward a cul-de-sac completion of this street. So just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. That's one of the reasons this step exists, and what's before you tonight. So.
When you say extend it through, do you mean it through the property to where it would connect in dead end, just straight up dead end on the property line of this?
Yeah, on the other side of the property. Yeah.
Got it.
And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like it should cul-de-sac there because you gotta have a turnaround at some point in time. You know, who knows how long it would take for it to extend through. So, yeah, that's my point. Okay, does anybody have any questions for staff or Courtney or Eric? No. Sorry. We will now hear from persons who would like to present this case. Please come forward to the microphone and give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Paul Sampson. I'm with Central Missouri Professional Services, 2500 East McCarty Street. And I am here tonight to represent the property owner, Mark and Julie Gerlach. The Gerlachs have recently acquired the property within the last year and are interested in developing the property as multifamily residential uses. As was stated earlier, we recently filed an annexation petition and a zoning determination, so it's recently been brought into the city and is currently zoned RA1, which matches the zoning of the existing part of Emily Lane. Like I said, the intent is to basically create these 3 lots, and as you can see on the preliminary plat, basically each lot is planned to have up to 2 3-plex buildings on them. That's kind of the maximum density of what we're currently thinking would be going on there. Potentially it could be duplexes or maybe even as low as 1 building per lot. But right now we're just asking for the subdivision plat to create the lots. We have submitted the street improvement plans and the sanitary sewer extension plans, which would allow us to build the cul-de-sac and build the sanitary sewer mains that would then ultimately serve each of the lots. The zoning regulations will require site plans to be submitted as construction goes on each lot. When that happens is yet to be determined, but all that goes through the standard staff city approval process. Couple of things on the planning report. There was some a comment about mail service, that the means of mail service is not shown on the plat. Post office regulations for new developments typically are requiring cluster mailboxes to be installed. Since this is an existing subdivision and we're basically just adding 3 lots to the end of it, you know, we haven't had any specific discussions with the Postal Service on that, but it's anticipated that there would likely be cluster boxes for, you know, potentially each lot, but that'll be taken care of as part of the site planning process. To Eric's comment about potentially extending Emily Lane rather than ending it in a cul-de-sac, the land to the west is currently owned by the Graves family of Menu Maker Foods. It's about a 70-acre tract. It's got frontage on Horner Road, which is accessed off of Bighorn Drive. For a development of that size, it's really going to be more desirable to have that access coming off closer to the Bighorn Drive interchange rather than coming on to Emily Lane, which is a fairly narrow street with on-street parking, which then takes you out onto Leandra Road, which is a non-curb and gutter street. So really I think if and when that property ever does develop, we'd like to push the traffic for that out towards Bighorn Drive and less through the residential areas. So I think that pretty much covers the gist of it. Anybody have any questions? Thank you very much.
I do. I actually have a question.
Okay.
So you said it's going to be a multifamily property?
Correct.
So is it going to be like townhomes or more like a 4-unit property?
Right now we're looking at each building would have 3 units, probably upstairs, downstairs. Because of the topography, they'll be a little bit different design to each one of them. Some of them are kind of go in the bottom and step up out the back. Some of them are come in the main level and go out the back on a lower level. So there'll be a couple, 2 or 3 different designs for the units, and that really hasn't even been done yet. But that's kind of, at least preliminarily, what we're thinking. So we'd be kind of 3 units in a row with upstairs, downstairs. 3 in a row, each with two stories.
Gotcha, okay. Now, are there any other multifamily units in that area? Or would
Everything on Emily Lane is all duplexes.
Duplexes, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
I do have one question for you. Why do 3 lots? Why not do just all of it in one? Is it because of, for like technical reasons, or?
Well, we talked about that, and the city does have some concerns about, and that's actually what we originally had started off with. The city's got some concerns about in the future how, with the ownership and management of individual buildings, with it being on 3 lots, the intent is for Mr. Gerlach to build it, own it, operate it, and
So
just,
from a resale purpose, they make it easier that way.
right. So if someone wanted to buy 2 buildings,
Mhm.
it's on a lot, you could build 2 buildings and wouldn't have any issues with that. So we've got ingress, egress easements on the plat that basically after you come off the cul-de-sac, there'd be private drives that would, we wouldn't actually have, we just had the single driveway coming off of the end of Emily Lane. All the units would actually be facing a private driveway, and then we've got ingress, egress easements that cover all of that. So as long as one person owns the whole thing, really no issues. If at any time somebody tried to divide it up into individual lots, then there'd have to be some sort of ingress, egress easement and maintenance agreements put in place. But like I said, right now that's not the plan. Yes.
Refresh my memory. It's not probably the oldest person in the room. Isn't this a revisit to Emily Lane? What did we do the first time? Like,
I-
that was just a few months ago?
That was just the annexation and zoning.
Oh,
I think it was
okay,
last
okay.
month.
Yeah. I think originally we may have submitted it all at one time, and then in order to make sure we kind of got all the ducks in a row, we split it up into multiple months. So we took care of the zoning. Yeah. Yeah, so we did the annexation and zoning, then that went to the city council, and then that was approved. Once it was in the city, then we can come in and start the division process.
Mr. Chair, if I may, especially while the consultant's at the stand, I'll just point out that the drawing of the different buildings and the driveway that are shown on the preliminary plat, I'm going to refer to as a conceptual type of thing. This is not an item of the plat that is really a decision point or review by this body. It's very useful in terms of knowing what the proposed development is, but it's not what's being approved. And so it could change, okay? And so anything that is permitted by the development code, by the zoning code and other codes, could occur on this property. And with its zoning as an RA1 zoning district, that permits buildings of up to 4 units. Okay, so could show 4 plexes. 3 plexes I think are a little bit easier to manage from a construction point of view, and so those are often planned instead of 4 plexes. But also the arrangement of the 3 lots around a cul-de-sac bulb would give some flexibility if the owner were to abandon that plan completely and just put 3 buildings around the cul-de-sac bulb. That would totally be a viable option as well. So I just wanted to make sure it's clear. It's not what you're approving. You're approving the lot layout and the street, basically. And if something changes there, don't necessarily be surprised, but it is a good faith effort by the applicant, the owner, to show what their plan is.
Yeah. Yeah, totally understandable. And I guess it makes sense now, because like if what he wanted to build, let's say on 1 lot, and he wanted to sell the other 2, he could do that. So
Yeah, then we'd be in a subdivision after the fact, or parcel divisions or things like
Right.
that.
Get it out of the way with now.
Right.
Yeah, understandable.
So, just a question of clarification from Mr. Barron. That rectangular right there in the middle, is that not going to be city then? It's still going to, it's
That
still
is in
county?
the county.
cut off from the other part of the county? Right, right.
And so, yes, correct. That is unincorporated. It's a donut hole, and we sometimes try to clean those up, when given an opportunity. But it would take an action by the property owner to actually petition to annex that property, and it would go through the entire annexation process, involving meetings in front of planning and zoning and city council, and so a certain time element there. But yes, that's unincorporated.
Knowing that these are just strictly preliminary, is there any type of concern? I know we've talked about parking in the last couple meetings, as far as around that cul-de-sac, knowing that Emily Lane does have parking on the sides of the street.
And I don't think there would be anything that would prohibit parking in the cul-de-sac. With the development plan, we are planning for, each unit would have a garage and a driveway, so each unit would have basically two parking spaces. But again, I don't think there's anything proposed to do no parking on anything, is there?
I believe that when section 1 and 2 were developed, that parking was actually removed on one side of the roadway. But in the ordinance, it does indicate that it is removed on one side. So I don't think we'll need to do anything special for the cul-de-sac portion, because it does define it as the entire width or the length of the street. So, but it is removed on one side of the roadway.
We must just not enforce that.
It may not be enforced. that might be correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong, is this not landlocking that one lot that you're calling a donut hole?
That's actually owned by the property owner to the south.
Okay.
They own both pieces of that on either side of the city limit line.
So are they gonna be able to access it from this?
It's contiguous with their property to the south, and they have access to Leander Road.
Their backyard just happens to go across the municipal boundary.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
it's not a separate tract.
okay, I'm sorry.
It just shows up that way on the tax maps because some of it's in the city limits and some of it's out, so it's taxed differently.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure we weren't.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this request? Seeing none. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition of this request? Seeing none. Is there anyone else who would like to just speak on this request? Seeing none. We will now close testimony. Courtney, please, the staff report.
I'll let Shane go ahead first with his report, and then I'll follow.
All right, thank you. As far as infrastructure and the Public Works review go, there is public infrastructure in the vicinity. Emily Lane is serving Section 1 and 2 of the subdivision currently. Sidewalk exists along one side of Emily Lane currently as well. The street is being proposed to be completed and terminate with a cul-de-sac with this proposal. It is a 28-foot wide street, parking allowed on one side of the roadway. As far as improvement plans, we have received those and will be reviewed as soon as possible. And that is for the cul-de-sac construction and for the sanitary sewer main extension to serve the 3 lots that are being proposed. Stormwater detention, stormwater quality, and erosion and sediment control will be private and a part of the site development. Some clearing activity has occurred on the site. We'd ask that some perimeter fencing, granular construction entrance, and any other erosion control be installed to stabilize the site for the portion that has been cleared. A land disturbance permit is also would be needed to cover that activity. So if we could work with the owner to do that as soon as possible, that would be helpful. As far as the upstream drainage for the existing channel that runs along lot 24, that channel carries over 50 acres of drainage. So similar to the Turtle Creek subdivision that's across the creek, we'd ask to take a look to see that there's a stream setback and a structure setback for this. I believe it's lot 24 for whatever portion may be applicable for that lot. As far as sewer goes, as I'd indicated before, the main is being proposed to be extended to serve all the lots. Sidewalks being proposed to be extended on the remainder of the cul-de-sac. The facilities for fire hydrants, streetlights, and utilities are all existing within the current subdivision and meet city standards. Utilities would be extended and are shown with easements to serve the proposed development. The technical review comments have been given back to the consultant and are minor in nature, and as far as our Public Works recommendation would be approval, subject to those technical corrections being addressed on the plat.
And then for the planning staff report, things were looked into for with respect to the subdivision code and the zoning code, and looked at lot size, did it have a proper name, looked at general street layout, was there parking, did look at the use, but again, that could change, and looked at things like, would these lots be able to comply with section 5 of the zoning code, as far as setbacks, having enough proper area, and staff does recommend approval of such requests, again, with the condition that they would have to address any technical corrections or comments from staff. And so up there are two formal motions, one being for the approval of the preliminary plat by this board, this commission, and then the second being a recommendation for approval for the final plat. Again, with that it would have to address the technical technical comments and corrections of staff. And then once the preliminary plat would be done here, and then once the final plat gets its recommendation, that will move forward to the city council, and that will be brought for introduction on January 3rd, and that's a Tuesday. That's because of the New Year's holiday. And then it will be eligible for a public hearing and vote on January 17th, which again is a Tuesday, but that is due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on January 16th. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I'll correct one thing, Courtney. It's a subdivision plat. It does not get placed on the city council's agenda as a public hearing. No public hearings required. So it'd just it'd go to the city council as a normal business, a normal council bill. So.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff? That was my phone. Let's see. Good thing I fixed them. Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion? We're making two motions.
Move to approve requested preliminary plat of Emily Lane subdivision, section 3, subject to technical comments and corrections of city staff.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Move to the second motion.
Move to recommend approval of requested final plat of Emily Lane subdivision, section 3, subject to technical comments and correction of city staff.
Second.
Hank. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. And we've already discussed the city council. It's January 16th. It goes on to normal business, city council January 16th.
Normal business. If it keeps with the schedule, we do require a signed plat, and so that's the only thing that could potentially interrupt the schedule. But if it keeps with everything, then it'd be on that schedule as shown on the screen.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to other business. we'll start off with staff updates on prior cases.
Okay, and so we've actually had 3 different cases get approved at the city council level. One was the, I think, if I haven't reported on it already, the daycare coffee shop on Stonehill Road has been approved for that kind of PUD change or amendment to their PUD plan to allow both a daycare and a coffee shop. Kind of excited to see that open, and it's kind of a unique little thing there. And so then 2 other cases that were fast-tracked. They were on an accelerated schedule. One of them was the JC Gymnastics, again, PUD plan amendment for their building on, I think its address is Four Seasons Drive, over there kind of by the roller rink. And so if you're interested, you could drive by there and see that work occurring where they're raising the roof of that building and doing a lot of steel work. If you're interested, I'd say hurry, because I think they're very interested in getting that project, completed and get the kids in Jeff City, in the building practicing gymnastics. And then also the private portion of the transload facility out in the Algoa Industrial Park, special exception permit for that project was approved at the city council level. And so, so a lot of activity at that level.
Thank you very much. They added 9 feet, 10 feet.
I think it's 10 feet.
10 feet.
Yeah. So we do have 2 new members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. You've already introduced yourself. And so, yeah.
No, you are. I asked him to.
Yeah.
I asked him to do it.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Well, I mean, I guess we could have done it at the end, but
yeah.
I just
okay.
thought I'd give him
just so you know, and as we go through orientation, I try to describe the different members and roughly your backgrounds to new membership, so they have a bit of an idea on who you are. Of course, it's kind of information overload, so after a meeting, I encourage you to introduce yourself personally. We do have another gentleman, Mr. Tom Wardenhausen, who could not be in attendance today, but he was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. There's still 1 empty slot. I believe that that's being addressed through the administration committee, and so we'll see if we get a new name in the near future or not. So, other than that, Chair, if I can continue. Can you help me out on the website, webpage? Okay, working. Okay, I'm going to try to do this. Our capital area MPO, and so that's kind of the other half of our planning division here at the city, where we have the planning and zoning functions on kind of one half of the division and the Campo on the other half. Katrina Williams couldn't be here this evening. I rely on her heavily. She's doing a tremendous job in terms of describing advertising and engaging a lot of people on our capital area active transportation plan. I can't imagine giving as good of a presentation as she's given, and she has given presentations on this topic in front of numerous organizations across the city. During Living Windows just last weekend, her and the consultants that are on board for helping to complete this project had a booth, so to speak, downtown. Had a bicycle hooked up to a generator that you could pedal and light up the tree. Was very popular with the children. Had some public engagement, some voting options in terms of, if you're familiar with the little dot stickers of placing the dots to vote and give some feedback onto some of the stuff. But there's flyers there in front of you, as long as also the little business cards, and so you can scan the QR code and be brought to this webpage. And there's a couple different things here. One is the survey, and so if you have not taken the survey, this is an excellent opportunity. It is still open, and it allows for some feedback in specific categories, like what's more important, spending money, making connections, what are the most important kind of features of this type of plan to you. But also the one thing I wanted to really point out is the draft network. And so by clicking on that draft network, you're brought to this page. In fact, I think the QR code might actually bring you to this page. It gives some description. What is an active transportation plan? And then describe some of the various types of facilities. So I'll skim over this very quickly. There's various types of facilities, out there in communities that have kind of established networks. So here, number one is what's called a trail or a side path. We often refer to them as just extra wide sidewalks along major streets. That's a good example. But they're usually, something wider that can accommodate bicycle riders. Usually separated from a road, but not necessarily by some sort of, not necessarily barrier feature, but a little bit of landscaping or something like that. The next one is protected on-street type trails, and so bike lanes on streets, and there's a couple examples of that. Then standard on-street, and so the difference being is that there's some barrier feature to these up here, and here there is not. Then getting down into the Sharrow type, just markings on the street to recognize that, bicycle riders can, it's kind of a route. But then, getting into the pedestrian oriented, the sidewalks, okay? And so the reason I wanted to go over that is there are two maps that are shown in here, and this is what I'd really encourage you to take a closer look at. One of them is a sidewalk plan, and then the other is more bicycle pedestrian oriented, so shows a lot of the bicycle type paths across the plan. So I was going to try to zoom in on a specific area just to try to show you how these different elements could lay out. So this, this map has been, put together, given a lot of feedback, but, by, the consultants have arranged the, basically a lot of the elements on the map. And so here I've zoomed in a little bit to the Capitol Mall area. And it's a little hard to see here on the screen, but I'll try to point out some elements. Over here on the left-hand side of the screen is different types of those paths, okay? Such as, greenways. And so here you can see a greenway kind of going along that's actually the north branch of Wares Creek as it gets out to the mall and then kind of continuing down. And then the purple line side paths. So again, kind of an extra wide sidewalk along a major thoroughfare is a good example of that. And so there along Truman Boulevard, you can see a purple dotted line. And so basically the idea of a side path along that street. Then you get down into a complete streets. This is a more kind of comprehensive effort of establishing a variety of different pedestrian and vehicle, accommodating a variety of different users of a street. I've moved up here to West Main Street, and so that complete streets, they really look toward West Main as being a very ideal spot to try to take that kind of broader perspective of providing for vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians, everything along an established street. But then also side lanes and various other pedestrian facilities that are kind of shown. There's a lot of information shown on this. I'd encourage you to kind of look at it and try to absorb a bit of it, and and ultimately, this is the direction that the plan's heading in terms of proposing specific facilities across the entirety of our community. And so, as I mentioned, Katrina can do this presentation a lot better, but I wanted to expose you a little bit to it, and also put in another plug for the survey. And so, any questions or anything on that?
So, Mr. Barron, from the site, can you access Mr. David Robinson's presentation, which I thought was excellent? He was a consultant for the audit walks, and I think it's maybe 15, 20-minute presentation that he did. I would highly recommend people
I think so.
access that.
I think that got put on there. I might struggle to find it right now, but I'm pretty sure that it's incorporated in there.
Yes, it's a video presentation. It's really excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a chance, I think it's like 20 minutes, maybe.
I think it's nice to be able to see it on a map. It's pretty good, pretty cool. because then you could see the existing ones as well, which I'm sure you could have seen that before. I don't know where you would have found that, but like the Green Trail, the Greenway Trail.
Yeah, we have had them mapped. There's one thing that the consultants complimented the city, us on the amount of data and information that we had available to hand over to them, so that they could start to look at it in detail and make some of these recommendations. Of course, we knew we were headed in this direction, and so it was actually some of the COVID era projects as we were cleaning up some of our GIS data and mapping a lot of the sidewalks, and so we did put a lot of work up into it before even going out for a consultant. So.
Yeah, sure.
I keep hearing rumblings about the 3-story coffee. Is there any further update on that, or?
No, I defer to the administration or law department on that. Sorry, I have no information.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Eric, staff? Okay. All right, well, I declare the meeting adjourned. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays.
Has a safe and